I'll be talking to us. In fact, a bit of interaction may happen at some point about influencer engagement, mainly looking at how to partner with eco advocates and social change champions. The outline for my presentation will be quite simple, which is we'll try and go through this. It's not going to be too long. I'll try and make it as engaging as possible for everybody so that you can also enjoy the content and what we'll be talking about. Mainly, it's important for us to establish that research has shown that people are often influenced by social norms and the actions of peers more than by fact alone. So the fact that I know something is not good doesn't mean I would not do it if everybody around me is doing it or if everybody's engaging in it. And this has been established by research, social research and psychological research as far back as 1955 to modern findings in 2021. It's important to establish that influencers are a powerful social change agents. And what that means is that they are able to shape opinions, influence people's behaviors, and mobilize audience in or around issues and topics that they are interested in or working on. It's also important to understand that most influencers are able to make complex issues simple, personalize the narratives, and demonstrate practical actions that individuals can take. At a point, for most of you who are on TikTok, you'd remember this gentleman called Calbi, who has the most following on TikTok, where he will do videos where he's not saying anything, but showing simple processes that people can do instead of the complicated ways that they were doing them. There is also the interesting thing to understand that most influencers are able to introduce concepts to new mainstream audience who might not be reached by traditional channels. I can't remember the last time I turned to watch anything. What it means is that traditional channels like television, the newspapers and radios may not be the place to go when you want to advocate or bring about some change on issues like climate change and air pollution and environmental issues. However, most of us are on our phones every day. We are on TikTok, we're on Instagram, we're on some digital channel or some forum at the end of the day, which means that traditional media may not be the way to go when we want to achieve a certain objective or target. Influencers are particularly effective at engaging youth who are increasingly recognized as critical drivers of social change. If you would remember, I think about 2 years ago, the demonstrations in Kenya is still being the most impactful in the continent. The Kenyan youth had a demonstration driven largely by social media where they went to parliament and took the maze of parliament, all in protest against a tax law that was being proposed by the government. What that tells us is that it's important to understand that a lot can change and a lot of social action is being driven by young people who are consistently on new medias or digital channels and trying to make sure their voices are being heard at the end of the day. One way that can easily reach a large number of these group of people is through influencers. Influencers enable crossing barriers such as local cultures, languages, and experiences, which increases relevance and inclusivity. At the end of the day, you'd realize, like what the moderator was doing this morning, you'd interact with people from different languages and different cultures, and that is made possible by the simple translate feature on a digital channel, which allows you to be able to know what someone is writing in their native language. And even in some cases, they sharing the perspective of what the cultural activity is about allows you to have a more inclusive experience of what they are discussing. It's important to understand that when you want to engage influencers, you need to have specific targets and impact. Influencers are great if you want to drive shift from just awareness to direct action by target audience. And we see this by the different trends on social media, where there's a dance challenge or there's a machine challenge or there's all sorts of challenges that people don't just hear about it, they engage in it. And it ranges from the good to the bad. There are stories where people have engaged in good where they did learned new skills. And then there are stories where you realize, I think in the US, a gentleman who was a prankster was shot by a jewelry owner. And instances where people were robbing cars because it became a trend to rob a certain kind of car on social media. So social media work by influencers is one of the ways to just move from people being aware of something to actually taking direct action in that activity or on that issue. They are also able to bring about positive change, leading to increasing willingness of people to act and also greater personal commitment. So you would hear people say, oh, I don't go to these places because maybe someone they follow says this place, their food is not nice, or they don't use this kind of product again because X or Y person told them this is not good. So they're like, oh, I follow this person, so I'm not going to do this. And it goes a long way. People even try to buy the cosmetic product or beauty product or fashion items that they see the influencers they associate with promote at the end of the day. And that is very, very strong when you're thinking of engaging influencers. It's important to be aware that this can be what you can achieve if you go along that line and the partnership is done right. It's also important that who you engage, the influencer you engage, can improve trust and credibility of the information that you're sharing among a wider community. Often you'd realize that TV may give you a certain demographics and radio may give you a certain demographic, but going with a certain influencer would open your content or your information or your concept to a whole new set of audience that on a normal day may not engage with what you're doing or may not be part of what you're doing. And it's important to also do this in a way that it builds on what you want to achieve. So have a specific target in mind, have a specific objective while you're engaging somebody. We'll go into what criteria to look at and what kind of model to look at as we go down the conversation. Because if I'm talking about, say, female issues or gender issues, or I'm talking about issues that relate to gender violence, and I go in for a male influencer, it will not build trust and credibility. It's important to know who can carry what message in order to achieve these targets and impacts that you're looking to achieve at the end of the day. Some of the guiding approach that we need to keep in mind is prioritize credibility and alignment. It's important to understand that people's profiles are not a one-time shot. It's built over time. What is the credibility of the individual? It's important to know who you're engaging with. They should have demonstrated interest in environmental or social issues. If someone is always talking about, for instance, say tech issues, and they've never mentioned environmental issues or social issues, but you want to engage them, they do not become the appropriate influencer to engage for issues that relate to environment or social issues. It's important to understand that you need to know who is going to be able to push what you're going to talk about, and it's going to give you the audience that you want to reach in terms of what they are already doing and how it aligns with what you want to do. One other thing is that a positive public image and audience trust. There are people online who you would know that they've engaged or they've had various scandals in the past that may not define them, but it's important to know that once you run with them, that reputation will be attached to what they are also talking about. And so if you do not want that kind of reputational attachment or reputational association, it's important to look at what kind of public image does this influencer have? What is the audience trust? There are influencers that people say, oh, they're probably always lying about what they are selling or what they are promoting. And so you should be careful when they come and talk about X or Y or Z at the end of the day. And so the public image and the audience trust of the influencer you want to engage should be one of the guiding things you should look at when or before you engage an influencer. It's also important that whoever you engage in or whatever influencer or creator you engage into carry a message or carry out an advocacy. It should align with the campaign objectives and the target audience. If my target is to reach out to people in an age range of, say, 18 to 25 who are in Africa, and I go and take, for instance, an influencer who is based in Germany, who is in their 40s, right there, I would miss my target audience. The language, the age range, the geographical reach is going to be different. And also, what is the objective of what you're doing? If your objective, before you engage an influencer, or before you engage an eco advocate or a social change champion, you should clearly have listed objective of what you want to achieve through that engagement. Do I want people to only hear about the fact that waste burning is bad and it affects their health? Or do I want them to report on waste burning in their neighborhood through a hashtag or through a challenge? Or what am I looking to achieve at the end of the day? Based on what you're looking to achieve, that will tell who you're going to engage. If I'm looking to carry out a message, I'm not going to engage Calbi, who doesn't say anything in his videos and only does demonstrations. It may give me some impact at the end of the day, but if I want people to do an activity, they should know and hear what clear instructions is being communicated to them for them to participate in that direct action to the campaign or to the advocacy or whatever change is expected. So always let your campaign objective and target audience be one of the guiding principles when you engage in an influencer. It's also important that, given what you want to do, authentic storytelling should be a focus you never lose. Being able to provide the key message and information for evidence-based communication is essential. People are not experts on waste or waste burning or climate change or flooding or the issues that you want to achieve as someone in the environment space or someone in the climate space. With that information, it's important to know what message I can put out there. How will that be communicated? You don't want to end up in messages that at the end of the day, it is not evidence-based. What that does is that it already begins to create misinformation. We will look at some of the things to avoid or the boundaries you should set in the next section or in the next slide. But it's important to provide key messages and information and ensure that you're having evidence-based communication. Whatever information that the influencer is putting out there, it should be verifiable. Most of the things I've mentioned in my examples, Calbi, the challenges, these are things you can check and you can find them. So if I come here and I tell you things that you cannot verify, it already will create a misinformation and a mistrust for what I'm putting out there. And so it's important that whatever message you're giving the influencer or the content creator or the eco advocate or the social champion is evidence-based and it's very, very clear what you want to be put out there at the end of the day. Often the excitement to promote or to carry out a certain message can end up distorting it. Because if someone tells you, if you breathe in polluted air, you're going to faint, that is not scientifically accurate. That is not good information. They may have the following and they're trying to prevent people from being exposed to air pollution, but the message they are putting out there is to the audience you are hoping to reach at the end of the day. The other part that you should always trust the person you're engaging to bring in their creative abilities, to bring in their style. You should allow flexibility in content creation. At the end of the day, what that would do is that it would let you leverage on what you were hoping to achieve and why you went in for that individual in the first place. If you think the content creation style of an eco advocate or a social champion is not something that aligns with you, you should not go in for them. The reason why you would go in for someone is because they align with you. So for instance, there's Kenna. Kenna would have all sorts of comedic acts and skits around what he wants to promote. If that is not something you want to see, then you don't go in for that kind of influencer. There's a Nigerian influencer called Jota who has a set of people drumming and singing behind him, and he's usually dancing and singing what he wants to talk about. If that is not a content creation style you like, you do not go in for that kind of, you should be guided away from that individual. But if that is what you like, then definitely you should go with them and give them the flexibility to bring their style, their creativity, and their originality to the message that you want to pass across at the end of the day. It's also one of the things to keep in mind that personal experiences and local stories often would resonate with their audience. If you want to put out a message, personalizing the message or having stories that people can relate with go a long way and builds very interesting associations psychologically for people. And so it's important who is carrying the message, what kind of personal stories or experiences they've had around it, and why they are even engaged in that. At the end of the day, that would increase the kind of impact and the kind of results that you're looking to get from whatever advocacy campaign or awareness or action that you want to achieve at the end of the day. Adopt a relationship first model. When you engage an influencer or you engage an eco-advocate or a social champion, it's important to let them know that even if it's a short-term engagement, that is an opportunity to have a relationship with them that they would associate with what issues or the complex concepts or problems you are presenting out there. Even if it's just a short-term engagement, that relationship will go a long way to let them know what you're talking about is not just a job, but it's something they can see and let them know that it affects their lifestyle. For instance, there's a work we did where we developed a campaign, and the gentleman who was the main actor in the campaign didn't have any knowledge about air pollution. When he was involved in it, he's a transport driver. Those in Kenya would know is that matatu. In Ghana, we call them trotros. They are para transits. In Uganda, I think it's Boda Boda or something like that in Sierra Leone. So he's one of them. He's a driver of a commercial public transport. And when he was exposed to the content we're promoting and trying to produce, he then told us that he didn't know being a driver means he could get sick in the long run because of the vehicle fumes and the fact that his car is not serviced. And so he went and said, where can he get the kind of nose mask he has to wear the whole time he's driving? And he showed us the nose mask he's going to buy and how he's going to tell his other drivers to protect themselves so they can avoid getting sick. This goes beyond what he's doing for that advocacy or that campaign, because in the long run, he's come to understand that it also affects me and I should think of it as something I should also take action on. So a relationship approach is very important. Treat the influencer as a long-term advocacy ambassador. Even beyond what you're doing with them, they would know that these are issues that should be kept on top of their mind and they should be involved in at the end of the day. It's also good to have multi-month collaboration and build narrative consistency for lifestyle adaptation. When you want a group of people to engage in something, assuming you want people to avoid a certain habit, a month campaign is often not enough. It's important to look at what outcome and what impact you want to get at the end of the day and how long you engage the influencer. Having that in mind will let you know, even if it's a month where you were hoping to do a 4 weeks campaign, you could also say, we want to engage you for 4 months and do one campaign on this every month. That multi-month approach would bring more results than the intensity of doing 4 campaigns in a month. So understand what you want to achieve and how you want to achieve it and what kind of impact you're looking to get at the end of the day. They are not exhaustive, but these for me are the key guiding principles that should be considered when I want to engage an influencer. It's important for me to have an understanding of these things and also ensure that at the end of the day, the values, the image, and how they go about their things aligns with what I want to do and I'm able to have a certain relationship with them even beyond the campaign or the advocacy work that is going to be done. Some of the major boundaries which has to be kept, and boundaries are things that you should put out there at the beginning, so you know whatever message you are putting out there is protected and it's not going to be understood in the wrong way. Vet beyond the vanity metrics. And when I say vet beyond the vanity metrics, there are people who are popular for the wrong reasons. So the fact that someone has a lot of followers, the fact that someone has a certain group of people does not mean they are fit to run your campaign. Do not only look at the numbers, do not only look at the fact that this person is popular. I'm going to use a gentleman. Maybe some people may agree, some people may not. But there's Andrew Tate. Andrew Tate is popular, presents a certain lifestyle and a certain thinking. But I'm not sure anybody would go in for Andrew Tate to do an advocacy for gender issues or for children protection issues, because he's the kind of person that has a certain opinion that often would contradict that kind of campaign. You should look at what kind of public image and what are there beyond the fact that this person has, say, 80 million followers or 5 million followers. Beyond the metrics, beyond the numbers, what is important to you? Value judgment should come a long way to determine who you're going to work with. So it is also important to reject creators that have inflated or and even Instagram in the last 5 years or so, they have tried to remove.
Hello, dog.
Go a long way, but it cannot remove it. I think I'm getting closer to my time, so I'll keep track of that. We just have a few more slides to go. So
we have 9 minutes more, but then you keep breaking, so just want to draw your attention to that as well.
Okay, sorry about that. So the other part is that avoid people with a history of highly divisive and non-inclusive content, regardless of their viral reach. If someone is consistently bringing issues that divide people or create issues that separate a certain group of people, you do not want to associate your campaign on environmental issues or climate with such individuals. So please have that as a boundary, that this is what we're not going to cross. Also, avoid content that could be interpreted as politically campaigning. You don't want your message to be seen as leaning to the right wing or the left wing, because then what happens is that you cut out a whole group of people who are not on that political alignment or leaning. So you want to avoid issues that have to do with you aligning your message politically, because at the end of the day, climate issues do not have a political color. They affect all individuals, and it's good to keep that in mind. There's also the anti-greenwashing barrier. You want to avoid individuals that, if you're an ambassador for, say, Shell, I have no business coming to you to say, come and run a campaign on climate, because you work for fossil fuel. I cannot associate a green program with you when you're doing the complete opposite. So avoid influencers who simultaneously promote high polluting industries to protect the campaign's integrity. If you're an ambassador for a high polluting industry, like a fast food or a fast fashion or a fossil fuel industry in our case, it will be hard for me to come to you to talk about circular economy at the end of the day, when what you do on the other side is promote things that contribute to it or contribute to the problem that you're trying to address. So it's important to keep in mind which influencer you approach and what kind of position they have, what they engage in at the end of the day. Avoid misleading statements regarding environmental impact. It's important to understand that the people you are reaching are also informed by other sources. You don't want your information to be questioned and the validity of it or the integrity of it to be questioned. So it's important to be scientifically accurate, evidence-based, and based on things that can be verified. If you come and say that the ozone layer is depleted, is that accurate? No. the ozone layer is not depleted. Maybe some years ago, but that is not valid now. And so it's important to avoid statements that may be misleading at the end of the day for your campaign. Creative freedom versus core fact. Grants influencers full control over their tone and visual style, as we discussed, but it's also important to have control over distortion of fact, data, and policy details. You would hear people say that, oh, there's a new law that's going to prevent anybody from disposing their waste. Is that what the policy said? Or did the policy say you now have to make sure someone is taking your waste before you can dispose it? Let's make sure that irrespective of the creative style or the tone or whatever approach, we do not have distortions in the data, the facts, and the policy details at the end of the day. Also, know which voice you need when it comes to campaigns. There are major voices and minor voices, and these voices have their specific characteristics of what you can achieve with them. When there are campaigns that will need a major voice, depend on what reach and the objective of that campaign, and there are campaigns that you will need a minor voice because you're trying to reach a certain specific niche or cohort of people, so you do not need a national splash of that, but you need people who are in a certain group to hear you and to be reached at the end of the day. We would go a bit into who or what is the minor and the major voice, look at some of the characteristics. Major voices are individuals with large audience, high publicity, public visibility, and strong influence over public discourse. There are people that when they talk about something, everybody wants to discuss it on TV, on radio, and it becomes newspaper heading. Those are major voices. At the end of the day, it's important to understand if I want to have a certain reach, national, international, regional, I will go in for such people. So I mentioned the Jota guy in Nigeria. I mentioned Kenna in Kenya. There's Gege in Nigeria. There's Kalije in Ghana. There's Sika Official. So depending on who you want to reach, you will know who to go for. If I want to reach a cohort of tourism people in Ghana, I'll go in for Majwa. Majwa is a tourist influencer who travels in Ghana and in other West African countries. But if I'm trying to do a campaign like South Africa, which should reach international, they're going for someone like Trevor Noah, who has a lot of international reach, and everybody's talking about why he's campaigning for South Africa tourism at this stage. The only reason people are talking about it is because he's a major. If he wasn't, it wouldn't become a public discourse at the end of the day. So it's important to know what your campaign objective is and what voice you're going to go in for at the end of the day. There's the national and regional recognition, as I mentioned. They have large social media following, often 100,000 plus followers. That's what you will find in their profile. They have strong media presence and audience engagements in way of assessing whether someone is a major voice. These are some of the characteristics you should look out for. They also have the ability to shape public opinions and attract mainstream attention. What they talk about is headlines on radio, on YouTube discussions, on social media, TikTok videos, because yes, people want to know why they are saying that and what is even influencing them. They have a broader demographic reach across multiple audience segments. And a typical example of such people are popular musicians, well-known TV and radio presenters, sports personalities, and national media influencers at the end of the day. When we talk about minor voices are individuals with smaller but highly engaged audience and strong community connections. There are people that would say, oh, today, my gang, we're going to this shop, we're going to buy this color of this dress. And they may have 50,000 or say 20,000, but they are committed to them. They are engaged. They have their live sessions every day. These are minor voices. They are usually have followers of 100,000 to 50,000, but they have people who are constantly with them. When they tell them, let's go here, they would all go. When they tell them, let's go and unfollow this person, they do that. So it's important to know what you want to achieve. They have high audience trust and engagement. So they are able to give you direct impact and direct results from their group of followers because of that high audience trust and engagement. They also have a strong influence with specific communities or interest groups. They are able to influence people's lifestyles, opinions, fashion, even what they buy and what they do not buy at the end of the day. They have a deep understanding of local context and challenges at the end of the day. Typical example of minor voices are environmental NGOs, activists, university student leaders, community and health advocates, champions, and local social media creators. These are some of the minor voices, and you can identify some of them in your communities, in your countries, and you will know the difference between major voices and minor voices if you go by these characteristics. Partnership model types. There are different ways you can partner with an influencer, or there are different models you can use to partner with an influencer. There is a long-term ambassadorship where you would find out for UNDP or UNHCR, you would find that someone is an ambassador and they've been an ambassador for the last 10 years. These are long-term ambassadorial plans. It's usually high recurring budget. So every year they know how much they give them. They give them creative freedom. So they would either do a song or make a statement or do a video about how you should donate to refugees in Gaza or Palestine. And it goes on for years. They have a sustained lifestyle modification where they would usually go to these areas to create association and affection for what they are talking about. And then these are sometimes the risk with it is that because they have their own lifestyles, you could have a public image that doesn't align with what you're talking about. But at the end of the day, because they are often major voices and these are long-term ambassadorial deals, it doesn't really affect what is being done at the end of the day. There's also the co-creation. These have a medium to high budget as much as possible with some boundaries to say, oh, you could do all of this, but we don't want you to do X or Y or Z at the end of the day. And then there's also what you will get in terms of the impact is that there's audience and comprehension and saves. At the end of the day, people will listen to them and take an action or understand what you're talking about or do something that would create some positive change in there. It requires longer production timelines because you need to look at what they've done, approve it, review it, if you're okay with it before you let it out to the public. These can determine the timelines when you're operating in that way. Unlike the ambassador where I'm an ambassador, so whatever I do, I can mention the name of the organization or the issue and nobody has to review it or approve it at the end of the day. There's also the performance-driven ones where based on what happens, someone will say, I will mention your product when I do my live or when I talk about this issue. So you'll find most presenters telling you, my dress was by XYZ and all of that. So depending on the number of times you mention it, who is hearing and all of that, then you can be able to get some metrics out of it and how many people were listening at the time and all of that. There is the licensing amplification where you go ahead and say, I want us to do this, but we're going to have a license to it. Once you do it, that is it. I get to use it anyhow I want, and you don't need to come in again. So you dissociate the content once it's created, and you use it as you want. And so you find out someone will tell you, oh, this content was commissioned for these people, so I'm even not allowed to use it again. That's a kind of licensing and amplification model of partnership. And then there's the purpose coalition where I know you have passion about the environment. And so I come to you and I say, oh, I'm trying to do a campaign about environmental pollution. Can you do a short video for it? It would go a long way to let people know that you are interested in it. And you say, oh yes, I'm even impacted by that. So the purpose coalition is often what most environmental and eco advocates go for because it's low budget. It also gives them high freedom and it builds a movement around what you want to do at the end of the day. The only challenge with that is that sometimes there can be inconsistencies in the messaging and how it's being tracked because it's a pro bono activity at the end of the day or is minimally funded. So you don't have too much control on how they should go about it in the end. There's the need to have open discussion and negotiation because you have a budget, you have a timeline, you have your objectives. Once you have your guiding approach, you have your principles, you have your voice that you want to choose, have an open and honest discussion and negotiate what is possible and what is not with the influencer so they can go ahead and do what you want them to do. Numbers and indicators. Key performance areas, I will just run through this without going too much into detail for time. There's a reach and visibility metrics where you're looking at how many people are seeing it, how many followers are interacting with it, what is your reach, what is your likes, what is your comments. And then there's the engagement metrics, how many people are making videos, support it, or how many people are engaging with the content that you've done. There's awareness and knowledge metrics where you ask people, what do you know about this at the beginning and what they know at the end, and how their knowledge or awareness has changed. And then there's a behavior where you realize people are taking action, doing videos to show that, oh, I watched this person and I did this and I got this results, and they post it, they hashtag it, or they join the challenge. That's a behavior change metrics. There's the advocacy and mobilization metrics where you say, oh, we're all going to this place. And then we have the influencer performance metrics and qualitative indicators. The testimonials, feedback, and community stories also go a long way. It's not always about the numbers. It could be touching stories from what is out there that would also show the impact that you're going to get. Reporting cycles, there's monthly, quarterly, annual reporting dashboards. This should help you track who is reached and how. Thank you.
Thank you, Doc. Please let's appreciate Doc for that presentation. Let's appreciate Doc. And as we know, it's time for questions. We don't have enough time, so let's start putting the questions in the chat box, or then you can just unmute yourself and ask the question. But Doc, thank you so much for that presentation. It was insightful, and this question came to mind when you were talking about going in for influencers, and you were giving the example of Jota, the guy that dances. Have people playing and he dances, it's all funny and everything. I think you made a statement that usually if you don't like his style, then you don't go for him. But then a question came to mind: do you choose the influencers based on your say personal preference, or you're choosing them based on what you want them, or say their reach, or the people they're able to speak to, or what they will do and how it's going to impact your campaign? So is it just, do you like your personal preference have a play in the decision in, how should I put, influencer decision? Yes, please. Do you get me?
I would jump to the point about vetting of vanity over metrics. So it's not your personal decision, but more or less the values. If you have a certain value proposition, if you think this campaign needs a certain kind of values or needs a certain kind of image, and so you want people to not think it's a joke, you want people to not think it's just a dancing and singing affair, you need to know who you're going in for. So value alignment is very important, and then the integrity and the image of what you want to achieve is very important. So someone may have the numbers that they can reach 1 million people, but sometimes you may go in for someone with just 50,000 people because their values and what you want to communicate will be taken more seriously and more aligned than just having the numbers at the end of the day. There are even people that if they go out talking about certain issues, others may not take them serious because of their historical position. And so it's important to know who you're letting be your messenger to the public or to the audience at the end of the day. So more of values and more of what you're looking to achieve is what I would say should influence it.
Yeah, thank you. Sorry, my network messed up. So yeah, thank you for that feedback. So any questions for Doc? Can you unmute yourself? Okay, Zomi, you can speak. You don't have your name there, right? Yeah. Please unmute yourself and speak. Hi, you have your hand raised. You can unmute yourself and speak. There's no name there.
I have a question in the chat box.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it says that, are there any tools to test metrics in behavior and in other fields as well, like engagement? Usually what you would do is you would need to adopt psychometric behavior polls. So what you realize is that a lot of influencers sometimes will put out a poll on Twitter, on WhatsApp, and say, this, would you do this instead, or would you do that? And they will do that at the beginning with their followers, and then start a campaign. Do the campaign for 6 months, and then bring that same poll back again. Because it's their audience, they will now be able to know what the audience position was behavior-wise at the beginning, and then in the middle of the campaign, and then in the end. So yes, there are metrics and tools that can be used by influencers to check behavior and engagement, depending on when it's deployed. Because you can do polls on social media now, you can do it even on, I think on Instagram now, you're able to do polls in the chat box, where you can say, are you going to go in for this or that, or do you agree with that behavior or this behavior? Those are some of the things that are being used now for behavior, engagement, metrics, and others.